And on this note, I know Phaedra has just joined us, and I'm so happy to welcome you, Phaedra. Phaedra, do unmute yourself.
Yes, hello, how are you?
Hi, Phaedra, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Where are you tuning from? Is it from New York or SF?
No, I'm actually tuning in from beautiful Maine. I'm on the coast of Maine this week. So I'm on vacation with my family and tuning in with you guys, and happy to be here.
That is fantastic. Oh, I'm so happy that you're tuning in from somewhere so beautiful. So thank you so much. So Phaedra, I mean, this is day one, and young people have never really worked together in the same teams. They have never met one another. There are 40 of them. Each team has got about 4 participants. And it's an opportunity for them to find a real challenge that they really are all passionate about. And sometimes in one team there will be somebody who is passionate about climate change, somebody else who's really passionate about Alzheimer's, or somebody else about mental health. They're having to reconcile their differences, or really sort of compromise on some of the things that they expected, and agree together on just one challenge they all really resonate with. It's really tough. It's day one. By end of today, some teams will say, okay, that's it. It's going to have to be mental health. And we have some amazing experts in Discord, from NHS Mental Health Trust, really are there answering all the questions. And we have somebody who's there, helping with climate change, somebody else, lots of different experts, mentors from MasterCard, from Microsoft, from so many different amazing companies joining us on this journey. And it's just exciting, but it's day one. They have been thrown into the deep end. They have been learning about agile. They have been learning software engineering, AI and data science in week 1. This is week 2, when they're meant to put all of their technology skills and everything they've learned about agile and project management and how to work together into practice. It's a challenge. And so today,
so many problems to solve, and so hard to choose which one to tackle. I understand.
You probably know, you've been there so many times. And so they have gone through what we know as human-centered design. And it's actually being taught by one of our most incredible mentors, Tanya Ahmed, who is previously IBM, and that's why I'm mentioning her. She used to be one of the first ones to be hired here in London at IX Design Studio, the IX studio here in London. And she's now working at Quantum Black, their most senior human-centered designer. And she is leading this entire piece with her colleague Hamza. And I know she has been jumping from one team to another. We have 11 teams, and it has been quite something. But it's only day 1. We don't know what will happen on day 10, but they are here listening to you live on YouTube. And I know you have lots to tell, and you have the most incredible talk as well. So it's over to you now that you have got that context. And just also to add, these are 40 teenagers, and 40 of them are from diverse backgrounds. At least 55% are female, at least 50% are people of color. So from Black African communities, either from UK or Europe or Africa, very diverse countries representing, Kenya, Nigeria, UK, Mexico, Fiji, United States, Canada, very, very diverse. And so they're together working in teams, set up literally just today. And it's really exciting. So that's the contest. And please do tell us something incredible to inspire them. And your talk is what we're looking forward to listening to. Thank you.
Great, my pleasure. May I share my screen?
Absolutely. Yes, you should be able to share your screen. So let me know if you can do it now.
Okay. Can you guys see okay?
Yeah, it says you've started sharing. Yes, we can definitely see your PowerPoint.
Okay, so the premise of my talk is going to be about games and play. I mean, I know Elena has just talked to you about, solving complex problems and human-centered design and trying to figure out like how you're going to use technology in order to motivate changes in behavior within people, right? Well, games can actually be fantastically adept at explaining complex systems and being able to motivate people. So think about some of the games that you play. Are you playing Fortnite? Are you playing Overwatch? Are you playing SimCity? What are the kinds of games that you're playing? And think about the last time that you actually learned something from playing a game. If you think about games like, for example, StarCraft, right, which has been around for a while, they can actually be wonderfully adept at explaining things like load balancing and logistics, right? And how do you manage a complex system in order to optimize a process, right? To evolve over time. They can also, these games, can be powerful, powerful instruments of change. And I'm going to give you some of my very favorite examples. And while you think about the kinds of challenges that you want to tackle within this exercise, I really want you to think about play and about games as a great tool, a great mechanism in order to bring about the kind of change and impact that you're looking for. So you may recognize some of these screenshots, right? And this is a very popular game called Pandemic, which of course is really resonates today, given that we're all tackling a global pandemic. But in fact, this game for entertainment, is wonderfully adept again at explaining how pandemics spread. How do they spread over time? In fact, the EU, there was a group that launched a mobile game that helps to teach people about the facts behind the coronavirus. Like what are myths, what are facts, etc. And you're working your way through this maze. This is a game came out some time ago. I want to say over a decade, the original version. It's called Fold It. It was from the University of Washington, where basically you're folding proteins. You don't know you're folding proteins. You're basically doing this puzzle game, right, where you're moving components around. But in fact, it's proteins within a molecule. And their initial iteration was actually to come up with new ways of creating medicines to combat very deadly diseases. So they've refreshed this now to tackle coronavirus. And how is it that you can, again, incorporate play and humans' ability to pattern match and solve puzzles in order to more quickly come up with a vaccine for the coronavirus? This is a game that was designed and developed by a group of high school kids in a disadvantaged high school within Texas. And it's called Medical Minecraft. And basically what they did, they had the Center for Disease Control sponsor a theme for their class, where they were told to come up with a video game that teaches other kids about pathogens and pandemics. So the kids reskinned Minecraft such that you can fly a nanobot through a human body. And when the nanobot meets with the pathogen, like Ebola or tuberculosis, etc., coronavirus, you can actually communicate with an AI that has been trained in these pathogens. So you could ask things like, how would I recognize symptoms of tuberculosis from within the game? And again, a very clever way of being able to teach others about pathogens. This is a really cool game. And I know I'm going quickly because I have a lot of really cool examples to show you. This is a cool game where you're basically stacking these towers in order to get to that glowing orb up at the top. And if you hit one of the purple balls, your entire structure will collapse, right? And basically what this game is measuring is how you approach critical thinking. How do you approach complex system problems, right? And it's measuring how quickly you shift to a different strategy, how resilient you are in terms of your approaches. And this is all in Hungarian, in case you're wondering. But it's a fantastic way, again, of being able to assess and then group yourself with respect to how you approach problem solving. This is a game that you play. I noticed this for the first time at a military simulation conference, where you're playing a game with biofeedback devices on. And as you're playing the game, it's a horror game. As you're playing the game, if you can't lower your heart rate, if you can't keep your heart rate down, and if you can't manage your brain wave patterns, and the fear is from overcoming you, the game actually gets scarier. So they really designed this game as a means to train people how to overcome stress in really stressful situations. How do they keep their heart rates down? Now, that same premise, right, of how can you create a game that helps you better manage your heart rate, as an example, was actually a task that was given to that same high school, that same group of kids at the high school out in Texas, right? So they were tasked to come up with a smart toy that solves a problem within their community using an old toy. So what they did was they took Hungry Hungry Hippos. I don't know if all of you know what this is, but this is an old toy where basically you're pressing the lever, a button, and your plastic hippo eats marbles, and you're trying to get your hippo to eat as many marbles as it possibly can. Well, these students took Hungry Hungry Hippos. They bought a used brainwave monitoring device off of eBay, and they hooked Arduinos up to the hippos so that without your hands touching any levers, without your hands, the more you can lower your heart rate, right? The more you can calm your brain down and go into a semi-meditative state, the more marbles your hippo will eat. So I was asking the students, like, what are you doing with this toy? Where are you play testing it? And they said, we're actually training people to be Jedi with this toy. And we're play testing it to other kids going through chemotherapy at the Children's Hospital, which I thought was just genius. I wanted to share their story with you. This is a game that teaches people about gerrymandering and the political effects of gerrymandering and what it actually means. It came out of Georgia Tech. Again, a wonderful way of explaining something complicated, like how do you move county lines, etc., in order to win big politically. How do you explain that in a way that really resonates with people? So this great game was developed. This is a game that really inspired people to be empathetic towards people who were rendered homeless, right? This was a game created by the Urban Ministries of Durham, where in essence, it tells you here, right? You'll never need help you'll never become homeless, right? You've got to prove it and you accept the challenge. And basically it's walking you through just common ways, really common unforeseen ways where people are rendered homeless, right? And to show you like, okay, what decisions, what could you have done differently? And look how easy it is to actually end up, on the streets without a home. So again, a great way of using a game as a mechanism to inspire empathy. Also, as you're thinking about empathy, one other thing that you could consider doing in your implementations is use an empathy bot, right? So you've got artificial intelligence that can power a chat bot, right? That recognizes your language patterns. But you can also use AI to determine what sentiment is that person expressing right now. Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it happiness? And given what sentiment, what emotion that person is having, how might you change the experience of the app that you're developing, right? So we brought this to middle school students, and we were teaching them how to code with the empathy bot. Super simple. The hard part is not actually the coding. They wanted to develop an empathy bot that would help other students better manage their stress during exams. Right? So if I know that the person is really freaking out, is really stressful, right? I may tailor my conversation completely differently than I would if I knew they were sad, right? Or angry. So again, the hard part was not the coding. The hard part was, what do I do in order to calm somebody down or change their behavior given their specific mindset now? So using design thinking, which I'm assuming you learned from your human-centered work this past week, is going to be really, really helpful to you, right? So should I say a joke? Should I play music? How do I get myself into the mind and really empathize with that end user in order to create something that is meaningful? Another idea for you, right? Smart fashion. And I know, Elena told you, okay, we're trying to solve big problems here, like climate change. But smart fashion, I wouldn't be so quick to discount it. Let me tell you why. So we did an exercise with a big fashion brand called Marchesa, where we sewed little LED lights into one of their gowns that they had on the Met Gala, which is this big fashion show out in New York City, right? And the way that the LED lights worked is if someone tweeted about the Met Gala expressing an emotion like, oh my God, I'm so pissed, I'm stuck in traffic again, I'm going to be late to the hashtag Met Gala, then the dress may glow red, right? And so being able to capture the emotion that someone is using in Twitter and then having your clothing change colors is actually a very interesting way of connecting people around specific social events that may be happening, right? And in fact, when certain things were happening politically in my hometown, we had students using this and putting the LED lights within T-shirts so that if someone tweeted, talking about a protest, right, it would change colors. So this is something, again, that I think could be of great interest to you. Another idea for you to think about is incorporating AI into music in a very playful way. So just as a quick story, I was tasked to compete against live DJs at a bar, right? So I had my laptop that had our AI running on it on one side of the stage, and on the other side of the stage was the live DJ. And what happened, the way that the contest worked, people in the audience would come up to me and give me their Twitter handle. I would put in the Twitter handle. The AI would go and mine information and determine their personality, right? Given what they saw on Twitter, and then auto compose a piece of music based on their personality, right? And then that same person would go to the other side of the stage, and the DJ had the opportunity to ask them 3 questions to determine their personality, like, what zodiac sign are you? Are you a cat or a dog person, right? And then they would say, I know you are Prince's Purple Rain. And they would play that song. And the wonderful thing about this wasn't necessarily, which one was more right with respect to determining that person's personality. But what it did do was it enabled us the opportunity to host a really fantastic conversation about the future of AI, in particular with respect to the arts and what it means to be creative in the world of artificial intelligence, right? So again, so some things to be thinking about. Additionally, and I love this example, I know many of you are Harry Potter fans. So we actually created an AI-powered Harry Potter sorting hat, and we've got the recipe for you. In fact, I've got links which I'll share through Elena, so you can check out, the code snippets and watch little videos so you can see, how we did these things. So an AI-powered Harry Potter sorting hat. So, you put the hat on your head, just like in the movie, and either you type something unique about yourself or you say something out loud, depending on what level of the application you want to build. There's a microphone, it does natural language processing, then it will categorize what you just said and determine which Hogwarts house you are in. And in fact, the original creator of this actually has the hat mouth moving, like Slytherin in the voice from the movie. So it's a super cool way of being able to really get very learned with respect to a fun way of incorporating AI into something like a smart toy. And it's great parlor trick, and you can bring it to parties and other places, and have fun categorizing your friends into different Hogwarts houses. Anyway, I know I only had 20 minutes and I wanted to get through all of my examples, but if I can be of any service to you with respect to pointing you to, any more examples, or to, if you have a game in mind that you're thinking about, or if you're thinking about playful ways of making your app resonate with your end user audience, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I hope you have fun with this, and thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Phaedra. That was really, really helpful and some fantastic examples. So I am looking for questions from the young people themselves. Let's see what they have to ask. I think they're still thinking, so I may be the first one to ask you a question then. So sure. I would love to know your journey. Tell me, Ray, how did it all begin? How did you get to where you are right now? So I always love to hear stories of the most incredible, inspiring, powerful women, because we do have a lot of girls on this program. They will want to know, how do I become like you, where you are right now? So what is your story? How did you get here?
This is a funny story. So, I grew up in a family of immigrants, and my parents were major technophiles. We always had Star Trek playing on our TVs, and my sister and I were encouraged from a very young age to take computers apart, put them back together, code on them, and of course, we gravitated towards games, not just playing them ourselves, but we really like the idea of designing games and, making them for our family and for our friends. And, we noticed that, at the time we were ready to go to university, there was no such thing as game design and development degree programs as there are now. But we both ended up going our own ways. I ended up in math, and she ended up in engineering. And then within a few years, we decided to start a company called womengamers.com because, again, we knew we played, and we'd open up most gaming magazines and go to most gaming websites, and they were not targeting women at all. So we started this site, and we're like, all right, we're going to review games. We're going to do consulting to game studios and publishers who want to target women. We started the first scholarship program for women to pursue degrees in game design and development. We had so much fun doing this, a lot of fun. We learned so much. Then there was this big shift in the games industry. And, the games industry, they started to talk about the mass market and the casual gamer. And I decided to go back to school to get my MBA because I was thinking, okay, maybe I can raise funding to start a game studio. And while I was there, I started to enter into these competitions called case competitions, when a company will sponsor a challenge like this one here, a real life challenge, and the students have overnight to form teams, and then they've got to pitch ideas the next day. And so I thought these were really, really fun. And so IBM was sponsoring my sixth one, and they said that they had this software called Business Process Management Software, and they were looking for innovative ways of explaining it to non-techies. And I had no clue what business process management was, but they handed each team a folder like about this thick, and I'm reading it, and I'm thinking, this is a strategy game, right? Tweak different business rules, see how it affects your broader ecosystem. You could have competing models. You could collaborate around the model. I was thinking like a SimCity style game, or like a 3D, a God view, right? Where you're looking down. And so I pitched an idea for a strategy game the next morning. And unbeknownst to me, one of the vice presidents at IBM was a judge, and she pulled me aside on the spot and said, I'm funding this right now. Can you make this game for me in 3 months? And that's kind of how it started. I asked her, I said, it could take years to make a really good video game. And she says, I'm just looking for proof of concept to see if you can even use a game to help solve a complex problem like business process management. And that's how it started. She gave me more funding. We were making smarter cities games, smarter planet games, supply chain optimization games, disaster preparedness and response games. And it's been so interesting to see the kinds of challenges that can be tackled with a the tools and the things learned from the world of gaming.
And how old were you then when you were offered, when the judge offered to accelerate your product further? How old were you then? Were you?
Hon, I got to count how old I am now. It was probably, I was like 35. I had gone to get my MBA much later in my life. So I was around.
Okay. I thought you were.
No, I had been actually an entrepreneur for about 15 years before going after my MBA and joining IBM. So I had been doing my own thing, both with my sister, with Women Gamers, as well as doing another consulting company where we actually hired game designers to do cool stuff. But it was later on in my life.
But right now you're studying an ethics degree, am I right? Is this something you're really passionate about right now?
I am.
Yes. And adventures.
So I'm currently pursuing a PhD in AI and ethics. And what happened is in 2018, I got really, really angry. I got angry by what I had learned with respect to Cambridge Analytica. And if you haven't heard of Cambridge Analytica or you're unfamiliar with what that is, this is part of your homework assignment for tonight.
This was on compulsory reading on day one, Cambridge Analytica, and I got them to watch the TED Talk, that very well-known TED Talk by Carol Caldwater about Cambridge Analytica, so they should have all watched it by now, so they know what you're talking about.
Yay, awesome. So it just bugged me. I couldn't let it go. And I wanted to learn everything I could about it. So I applied for a program. It's actually University College Dublin has a PhD program dedicated to AI and ethics. It's in collaboration with NYU. And the focus of my work is actually how do we mitigate bias in organizations? Like what do we actually need to do in order to make sure that there aren't unintended consequences? Because, okay, there's really good AI, and I've given you some wonderful examples. Then there's bad example, which is Cambridge Analytica, where they truly had malintent. And then there's what I call the ugly, right? Which is even organizations that have the very best of intentions with their artificial intelligence, the best of intentions, they really mean to do no harm. But because of the data set that they choose to train their AI, they can actually calcify bias systemically. And this absolutely terrifies me. It really does. And I know there are ways that organizations can really make sure this doesn't happen to them. So that's something that I've tasked myself to go and tackle.
That is fantastic. I share your passion. I was also outraged when the entire story happened, and we do discuss various case studies throughout the program because it's something I'm passionate about, and I really do very strongly feel that this should be taught in school. That whenever we teach computer science, we should be teaching ethics as well, because things can go wrong. They do very easily, and it's really up to us. It's our responsibility to mitigate those. So, Phaedra, we do have some questions for you. So the first question is, how did you train the AI to detect emotion, and how did you incorporate the ethics? Oh, there you go, the first question.
Great question. So there's actually an API on our cloud that has already been boxed up and created with respect to this sentiment bot, right? And basically what it does is it's looking for specific words, characterizations of words that would then go and be classified into certain kinds of emotions, right? So for example, I use the word, I'm pissed, I'm stuck in traffic, right? Just that word alone, right, could say, okay, that equates to the sentiment of anger. So that's in essence, it's a classification system with respect to how you're gonna bucket certain kinds of words. So that's in essence how the API works. Now, some interesting ways in which one can incorporate ethics in the curation of data sets. There's actually 3 different things that I'm urging organizations to do. So the first is that when you're designing or developing an AI, you've got to make sure that the team is as diverse and inclusive as it can possibly be. So that's step 1, right? Step 2 is also making sure that there's feedback loops so that when you're going to deploy something, right, if someone has an issue that says, you know what, this really didn't classify me fairly, that feedback comes back to the designers, to the developers, so that they can tweak the algorithm, tweak the AI or the data set. Then there's also the use of like red teams versus blue teams. So you can sort of poke holes at certain kinds of assumptions that the AI might be making. So that's what I bucket under culture. So there's 3 major pillars: culture, the use of forensic technology, and governance. So forensic technology means, can I mine the data in order to flag for certain biases? Like, is this bias against gender? Is this bias against race, et cetera? And the output of that forensic technology will be a label of sorts that determines, okay, given this data set that's been being used, here's what our findings are. And then, of course, governance is, what kinds of standards are you sticking to with respect to those labels, right? Are you saying, you will only allow for a 2% bias? Like, what are you saying that your organization or your deployment of AI is going to stick to? So these are, all kinds of ways in which orgs can mitigate the risk of such bias.
Fantastic. So we have another question here. Please, could you tell us what kinds of things can we learn from modern games like Fortnite and PUBG? I'm not a gamer, but I'm presuming this is some well-known game. Yeah.
So as an example, in multiplayer games, massively multiplayer games, it's interesting that, there's several aspects of leadership, especially the ability to lead a team, not just actually lead, to assess a team, to choose a team, to direct a team, to lead a team virtually, and remotely, right? Which is basically what we're doing today in corporations around the world. Right? We're trying to figure out, like, how do we keep our teams motivated? How do we keep them with their eyes on the ball, tackling that mission? Those same skills that are needed in some of these, massively multiplayer games are absolutely needed in business today. Absolutely needed. How do you assess what kind of teammate can help you the best? How do you communicate in order to keep people motivated, keep people showing up on time, giving them a mission where they're not all splintering off doing their own thing? How do you assess skill sets? Like, oh, I know that person, they really want to be a warrior, but actually they're a fantastic healer. How do you assess people's skill sets and keep them motivated? It's very interesting to see, what kinds of things from massively multiplayer games, in particular with working with people, are useful in today's world.
Brilliant. So that really ends our Q&A. No more questions, but definitely a lot of comments thanking you for your talk. So I'm really so before we end, what is your top tip for the rest of the accelerator? What would you advise that they do? So this is only day 1. They're still figuring out what is the challenge that they will be solving. It's human-centered design, for the next 2 or 3 days. We are discouraging them from even looking at solutions at the moment. Like, don't touch the code. Don't even think about it. Think about the problem. Try to empathize. Find that, find the people you want to, whose problem you want to solve. Ensure that the problem is very painful, and there is a real need. So this is the kind of advice we're offering them. And every team has got a design thinking mentor to guide them through this process. but in about 2 or 3 days, they will start looking into tools. They will start looking into, you know, what data set they will be using. What advice would you offer to them at this stage?
Well, the human-centered aspect is really, really important, right? Because as I mentioned with the empathy bot as an example, the hard part was not in the code. The hard part is in how do I create an experience that's actually going to motivate people to change their behaviors? And the
Yeah.
key is intrinsically motivate. I would try to stay away from extrinsic motivation as much as you possibly can. You want to get to intrinsic motivation, meaning I know it's easy to do things like, you know what, if you do this extra 5 hours of work, I'm going to give you 50 points and put you at the top of the leaderboard. Like, I know that's a really quick and easy fix. Try to stay away from that as much as you can and focus instead on what does this person want? What do they want more than anything else? What would drive them? What would compel them to do this thing that I want them to do, this behavior? So that's, and I would also encourage you, don't forget play. Don't forget play. Don't forget, you know, these moments of joy, right? And games like these, again, can be fantastic tools to that you really want to try and tackle, especially if it's something like a complex system that you're really yearning to change. Like, how do we get everybody behind climate change? You know, what would a game that explains the complex systems behind climate change look like? And then how do you inspire people so they're getting that fix that they need every time they're in playing, to keep them going, to actually get them when they're not using your app to actually be doing things in real life? That's ultimately what you want to get to.
Amazing. Now, this is a really powerful advice. So everyone who's watching right now, so please make sure you do take this advice on board. And thank you so much, Phaedra. I'm so grateful you've joined us. We will keep you updated on how we get on, and you will receive an email from me, you know, telling you what they're doing and what the progress is. And I really do hope you will be following us on social media to just keep up with all the developments. So thank you so much for joining us today. I am so grateful, eternally grateful you've made time for us. And I know you're in the middle of your holidays. So I really do hope you enjoy your holidays and stay safe. And thank you once again. So we will stay in touch. And everyone, this really does end our evening stream, and we will tune in again tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And I know you still have quite a bit to do in Discord, and I will be seeing you back in Discord. So come back tomorrow, 5 p.m. BST. Do share it with your network so that everyone can enjoy the most incredible, inspiring speakers that we will have for you